Hey guys, what's up? It's Jamie, Dean, and Kylie, as always, coming at you from all over the world today. It is every day I get to say this. It's so beautiful out. I get to spend the couple hours here hanging out with you guys, chatting about life, seeing what's up. Um, I was kind of late today, guys. I gotta apologize that it's like I don't feel like it's like me, but get out and doing things, and I don't know what it's like where you guys, yeah, right? I know where you guys live, but like here traffic isn't really a thing. It's really slow and stuff like that. But then in the springtime, there's always like street sweepers out, like cleaning stuff up. So then there's construction season coming, and it's like you just don't account for that stuff. So I actually had an idea that if I was really not going to make it, I was going to do this over my phone from the car, just like pull over and just like. So that was an option, but either way, I made it. I'm here. Glad to see you guys. Kylie, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I've had a really great call with a new client today. So that was great. And that's about it.
Perfect. Sounds good. Dean, what about you?
Yeah, like I was a podcast I was invited on, so that came out about 2 hours ago. So that was pretty cool. That was weird watching me back and not talking to you guys. So yeah, my safety net was ripped up and taken away from me. So that was interesting. That was a cool chat about purpose.
How'd it go?
Yeah, it went really well.
Ripped up and we can hear it.
So that was interesting. Oh, there's an echo.
Who's doing that?
Could be me.
Kylie. What podcast were you on? Can you share it over?
Yeah, it's called the Purpose Podcast, and it's on my Facebook, and it's on YouTube and on LinkedIn. It's going to be on LinkedIn as well.
What was the idea? Was it a bunch of coaches or?
No, it's so he was an ex-yachty, and he was interested because he left the yachting industry and moved into a different area, and he resonated with my story and purpose. He was interested in mindset, so he wanted to bring me on and talk about why he feels as well that everyone should have a coach. So that was the subject matter, and I just went in about my life and how I got to this stage and what I'm up to and my thoughts and feelings. So it was a really cool podcast. Yeah, it was really cool for an hour as well. So it was new, exciting, interesting, and the first one. Yeah.
Sweet. And how are you doing, Jamie? What's the week look like for you?
This van project is hilarious. So I was like doing a couple of videos of like the van and how it was going, and I'm like, tearing it down right to the walls. And then I was like, I made a comment. Me and Lauren and I did our podcast from the van. We were just kind of like walking around talking about the plan, and I was like talking about I'm going to take the roof off because it's like a fiberglass roof that was like screwed to a van, right? And so I start taking like the roof off, and I didn't do it all. And then I come back in, and I have a message from like my uncle who I haven't talked to in probably like 15 or 20 years or something like that. Obviously, we have a really close family, but anyways, he's like, whatever you do, don't take the roof off your van. Like that was the sentence he said to me. And then he's like, I worked in this industry. I built so many vans, and like once you put them on, they're like never supposed to come off. And I just started laughing. I'm like, too late, but thanks for reaching out. So I did some more research on it and stuff, and like my plan is still going to work. I think he's just like, don't take it off because it might just like shift and move and do stuff, and you'll just never get it back on. So things are okay still. But it was so funny that like because of me putting that out on like Facebook and stuff like that, that like someone I haven't talked to for so long, they just reached out and like gave me some advice and stuff. So that was pretty cool. I like that. And other than that, the weather here is awesome. Like it's full on mountain bike season, hanging out with the kids, teaching them to ride bikes. They're loving it. There's birthdays this weekend, just busy. Go. So it's been good though. It's been really good. So just trying to focus on the van, the house, and everything else in between. So, but definitely gonna make time for this because I love our chats on Monday. So it's gonna happen.
Top man.
But I really like this statement. More question, have you just accepted this is it? It's funny because I think it comes up a lot in like friends groups and conversations and in life. What this question means to me is like, it was kind of like when I'm sitting there at work back in the day and just having those conversations with other friends and stuff, and we're trying to figure out how to get out of where we are. And I think anybody in any job has sat around, even at the water cooler or anywhere, and talked to that friend or that person, their coworker, and it's like, is this really it, man? Is this what we're like meant to do? Is this like our path and stuff like that? And so I think this question will resonate fully with anybody out there, because I don't know, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you guys? Have you had those conversations?
Yeah. I mean, that was where I was before I found coaching. I just had accepted that I was someone that was always going to be an employee, had to do a crazy ass commute to work each day and, be part of the rat race. And I just accepted that that was life. That's what people like me did. Like, someone like me didn't strive to own their own business or take risks, and I looking back now, it seems so alien that I could have ever have got into that mindset. And it wasn't even necessarily that it was an outright conscious choice that I was actually saying those words out loud, oh, this is it, I'm an employee. But it was an acceptance on a sort of subconscious level. And also the fact that I wasn't doing anything about it. I mean, that in itself was kind of a white flag to the situation, accepting that this is where I was. And yeah, I mean, it's not until I got to the point that I sat down and really questioned myself, what do I want? Like, where's my life going? What am I going to do about this? That actually I realized where I was and what I had been thinking, and that I had kind of just accepted, oh, well, people like me, they go to work, they're miserable. They do their 9 to 5. You pay the mortgage. Done.
That's it. People like me, that phrase you just said, people like me. What does that mean to you? That's a scary phrase. Like,
I know, right?
Like,
people like me, it happens to someone else. Someone else wins the lottery. Someone else dies. Someone else gets run over. Someone else. It's always someone else. And I think that's part of our programming. We always see like someone else can do something or be affected by something, but not us. And what's weird, what I love about this is that generally we are the hero of our own story. We're the main character. Yet things like this, we kind of disassociate ourselves. And it's almost like we're not seeing ourselves as part of a collective or a community, that it could happen to us. And that can go for anything. What I find about this statement or question is interesting is that I remember being very young, and I from a young age I just didn't understand school. I didn't understand what the point was. I'd go to school and I'd say, what is the point of this? I don't understand. It's just, and I've talked about education. It's a sore subject with me because of the way it made me feel for many years. But I always remember asking people like, why can't you go off and do something? Or why is it that this is like this? And the one answer that kept on coming up, reoccurring over and over and over again, was, it's just the way it is.
It's the way it is.
It's just the way it is. And then I'd say, but why is it like that? And then they'd say, shut up, or, wind your neck in, pack it in, you're annoying me, go and play on the road. That was like the attitude, but they couldn't. And I think that maybe they thought I was being a little bit flippant and, facetious in a way. Like I was just kind of like, why? But actually I was kind of looking for answers, but no adult, no teacher, no kid my age could tell me. They just said that it's just the way it is. And that is an acceptance in itself.
I mean, how frustrating is it when like you get that answer and then all of a sudden, not only that is, have you guys ever had this experience where you have an idea or you want to try doing something and someone tells you that you can't, or they say that, oh, no, you can't do it, but like, and then I stop and think and be like, well, that person's doing it. So if they're doing it, why can't I do it? You know what I mean? It's such, and especially again, all this stuff we talk about kind of like breaks down to like when you're young and when you're a child, and like how when you asked why, did people take the time to answer your question, or did they tell you to shut up? Like those things like really affect how we grow up. And especially being around kids now, I am so aware of that. It's like, no, I want them to be able to do anything. Like just try it. Go try. The worst thing is when they say they can't do something and I'm like, oh yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. But yeah, I know it's that going with the herd mentality too. Now that I know a little bit more about this concept, is that it's like the reason why people are saying that you can't do something, or the reason why they're saying that you shouldn't do something, or that it's just done that way, is because everyone is comfortable in the herd group. Everyone's comfortable going with it. And if like you see it in movies and stuff, like when one person gets that idea, that spark to move on and better themselves or something, usually they take a partner with them, or there's somebody else that sees that spark too, and then they go off on this incredible journey together, right? And then all of a sudden they come back and show the whole herd what they've done, and like how they took a chance and went through this hard struggle and then like made it at the other end. And it's like, it might sound ridiculous, but like movies are based on this shit because it's real. It's like it's real, and everyone sits there and watches a movie, and then afterwards they're like, oh, that's so good. And meanwhile they could be having that adventure, they could be finding their partner. And it's amazing how the partnership in some of these scenarios could be your family, like your family. You could do it together as a family group, and like you could go together and try something new and try something different and just see what's on the other side. Yeah.
I think you and Dean both tapped into something though, you know, when Dean was talking about when he was a kid and he was told this is just the way it is. And then you was just talking about, you know, childhood then and asking that why question. And if I look back at my own childhood, I would say a lot of the answers were just, again, it's what we do. It's what people like us do. You know, you've got to pay, you strive to get a mortgage and you strive to pay that mortgage, and that's life. And then any sort of joy or fun that you might have along the way, that's a bonus, but that's not what you're looking for. You're not looking for meaning or joy or some happiness. That's a side thought. What you're looking for is the job to pay the mortgage, to keep you in four walls that you probably don't want to be in. And I guess it's then that pattern of it takes someone to challenge that. Like I was talking to, you know, my grandparents just recently when I was talking to them about what I'm doing now, launching my own business, and that going forward, that's going to be my source of income. That's going to be my living, like what I'm doing for me and my coaching. And they're like, but it's so risky, and why are you doing it? What if you can't pay the bills? And they were like, and why do you need all this meaning and happiness? That isn't what a job's about. And I
Is
was
that
like,
what they said?
yeah. And I was like, but why can't your work be meaningful and happy? I was like, why can't I get out of bed on a Monday morning and think, yeah, look what's in the diary this week? And I just so happened to make a living out of that too. And their little minds were just blown, because they're like, that's not what we do. They're like, you're sensible, you're responsible, you pay the bills. And I'm like, but why can't I do both?
That is amazing to hear that like from a first person like you, to hear somebody actually saying that your job is not supposed to make you happy. You are not supposed to be happy at work. Where did this mentality come from? Like,
I think what's interesting about the older generations is that I can sympathize I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand how they've come to that. And I think that the generations that came before us, there'll never be a generation like them. They literally have been through a lot of different things. I mean, the world has changes on a seismic scale, and a
Sure.
lot like have been through wars, have seen radical change and technology. So maybe it's a case of the lack of understanding and the idea of, back then maybe a job was, to priority was to feed your family, and having a job was important, and just making sure their needs were met were the priority. But I feel that as we've kind of moved into this like technology age, they probably have no idea of how this works or why it works, or that Facebook or social media is a gold mine of data or of resources, of clients, or whatever it could be. So maybe there's that lack of understanding and that programming of, you you get married at 18, you have kids, and then the job is to support that lifestyle. It's not there for you to enjoy. It's there for you to put food on the table and come home to a wife and kids and live that life until you retire. I think that's maybe, so I can understand it, but to us it just sounds, because our mindset has left that employee mindset. So of course it jumps off at the page at us, which is fascinating to hear.
Totally. Well, the one thing too that I've been talking about a lot lately is that it's not the same anymore. Like you just touched on that, how it's like used to be you got married, you had kids, and then usually it was the man who went to work and supported the family. And that meant that the mom was at home taking care of kids, probably didn't go to college, didn't get any education or anything like that. She was a mom. And if something happened to that family group where the man left or the mom left, then that woman wasn't able to go out and like support herself or any of that with any of those skills. So it was like that family unit had to stay together because they all had real roles. And like now it's not like that at all. Like the woman goes and works. Like both parties are the same. They like, it's so much more equality now that it's like everybody has the same opportunities. And now I've been talking to, like, the role as a man isn't there to just provide and take care of the family anymore. And it's like now we have the ability to, both man and woman and all this stuff, find our own jobs and our own places. And like, most families now are both educated. I know like there's lots of people I know, like the woman's a nurse and like the man's an engineer or whatever like that, and they're both working and they're doing this thing. And it's just not like it was like back in the day when we were like Neanderthals and stuff. It was like our roles were totally different. And now it's like, especially with, like you said, Facebook, being able to work online and stuff. Now one of the family members can stay at home and work and take care of the kids. And now with COVID going on like this, now we've realized that everybody can stay home and everybody can work from home and everybody can, like, the options are all there. And I think that's the thing with talking to the older generations, that, like you said, Dean, it's just like, it doesn't make sense to them to be like,
I think so.
You can do it from home.
But yeah,
look at our no, I was gonna say, and look at like our lifestyles as well. Like Jamie, you're selling your current like property, you're doing up the van, you're getting excited for van life, you're breaking that mold. Like Dean's traveling and going to different countries and exploring, and I hope to do the same thing. I'm 36 in a couple of weeks, and my plans aren't currently to get married, and obviously against a lot of milestones I should be married and have kids and have ticked that box, but that's not where my head's at. My head's at that I want to expand my business. I want to get on a plane as much as possible, like next year especially, like travel, meet you guys, like, and build myself in that direction. And obviously, you go back to what we were talking about a few generations ago, a 36-year-old woman wouldn't have been talking like that and been able to talk like that so freely, and it just be okay. Like that's okay, that's my lifestyle, and whatever us three are up to in our 30s, coming on, maybe into our 40s, that's okay. Like, people expected different things of us.
What's interesting about this, and I think one of you guys touched upon it, is the identity tag. Now, a lot of people don't like to be labeled, yet they label themselves without actually realizing. Like, this doesn't happen to us. We don't do that. We're the type of people, we're employees. So they do it unaware of it. And already you're labeling yourself, and you're defeated before you even started.
Yeah.
You're shooting yourself in the foot before you even started, because now that label is hanging around your neck, and you're not even thinking about the label. It's just like ingrained into you. And this is what I like. I think of it like this. Opportunities in the world is, for many people, there's a glass ceiling. And they've accepted there's a glass ceiling. But they've accepted it to such a degree that they can't see it. It's like see-through, right? It's transparent. And sometimes the light reflects off it and you know it's there. But for many, they're not even aware that it's there anymore. They've just accepted that that's the sky. And they cannot see the glass ceiling anymore. And all it takes is a little pebble to chuck and that to fall through before you climb the next one. And then there's another ceiling. And that's what I feel, like this identity without actually identifying themselves fully. And they've done it to themselves. They've put themselves in a class. And this class system idea, it's a choice. It's a choice. Like we were talking about the other day, like people have a mentality of being poor, so they are poor. They can be like, have all the money in the bank, win the lottery, but this poor mentality will make them poor. And I think it comes back to that, is that if you want to accept that your life is not going anywhere, nothing's going to change. It's not going to go anywhere. Accepting that actually there is a choice and there's ways around it so that this isn't my reality, that I can strive. You said the word strive earlier, Kylie. I can strive for something more. But that's not acceptance. That's accepting that I can better myself. And that's the key difference.
But what does it take? I mean, because I've been there. I have been in that mind frame that we were just discussing, where I didn't necessarily say the words out loud, but the thoughts were there and the action was there, where I was saying, well, you know, I'm a city rat, and as in like I'm, you know, part of this, I'm part of the rat race, and you know, I go to work and I pay the bills, and that's life. And I was there. But so what gets people to the point where you challenge it and you start to realize it doesn't have to be that way? Like what you've just accepted, you can throw that pebble and you can break that glass ceiling. There is other things out there for you. You are allowed to take risks. You're allowed to live a different way. You're allowed to do different things. Like there's got to be a turning point. There's got to be something that opens your eyes.
I think there's a few things that can do that. I mean, I think the obvious one is like hitting rock bottom for people, and everybody's rock bottom is totally different. But then also it's seeing somebody that I'd say maybe you hold in a high regard, or maybe seeing your neighbor as somebody that's on the same level as you, achieving the success that you want or achieving what you want. That can also be a way to do it. And on the other hand, it can also be seeing somebody else fail, watching somebody else hit rock bottom and you being like, no. They say that, like, again, back to like as a child, if your parents are like, either kids end up like their parents or they end up the opposite as their parents. Either they see that parent and be like, I do not want to end up like that, or they see that parent and they just like ending up like that because they never really questioned it, and it just happens naturally. So I think those are like kind of three of the things that can, like, there's probably so many more, but off the top of my head, those would be the things that kind of get people to take a look and be like, why am I accepting this? Why does my life have to be like this? If my friend Johnny next door, if his life isn't like this, then why does my life have to be like this? So
what I think was quite interesting is the idea that people are scared, like your grandparents mentioned it, Kylie, about risk. And for me, it was the it was the 2008, 2009 world crash, the financial crash that shook me, that done something to me. Although I still felt like that for many years, that was the moment, the turning point for me. And I say to people like, I could risk leaving my job. I could risk not being here in Mallorca. I could risk a lot, like leaving my friends behind and having to go home or whatever. But for me, that is a calculated risk, and there's the difference. Like that calculated risk, there's a potential it could happen, but that could actually flip round, and I could, the fruits of my work could outshine all that. But the one risk that I find the most interesting is that people are scared to take risks out of fear that their life is not going to go well. But their life is not going well. Like the fear, they fear more of taking a risk than just carrying on down this road. Like for me, I fear that unfulfilled life, that life of not happiness, not joy, going to work feeling down and leaving work down, watching the clock and just wishing my life away. That for me is the biggest risk and the biggest fear anyone could ever have. So this fear of leaving my job and going on to do something new, to me, is nothing. It's like walk in the park. But for some, it's not as easy. But it's just going through that in your head and seeing it from a completely different viewpoint. And once you see it from that viewpoint, it becomes quite easy. Yeah. Because that fear of shit, this is the rest of my life is far scarier in my view.
Absolutely. I mean, until I came to coaching, I don't think I'd really, really sat down and given serious thought at times to what do I want my legacy to be? Like when I'm on my deathbed and I'm looking back, what do I want my life to have looked like? What do I want to have accomplished? And, what do I believe about myself at the moment? And asking those questions of myself, like especially that, what do I believe of myself? What beliefs do I have about me? That's when I came to these realizations that I had been carrying these type of labels around, I'd been carrying this, I'm just an employee. Like that was a belief I had about myself. People like me don't take risks like running their own business. Like these were beliefs that I had about myself and that I had never really sat down and analysed or even challenged or tried to work out where earth they came from and then what that meant for me, like how I was limiting myself. And those questions of what do I want my life to have looked like when I'm on my deathbed and I'm looking back, what do I want to have seen? What do I want to have accomplished? What do I want to leave? Like I'd never really sat down and asked myself those questions. And I mean, it was through doing that. And then obviously, all three of us talking to our clients. And when you're asking your clients those sort of questions, that you start to see actually what people do want and potentially how they're living and what they do really want don't marry up.
Totally. For sure. One of the questions I liked asking was, and what got me to where I was today is, what's your worst case scenario? And for me, that was such a powerful question because that's what got me to where I am right now in this situation and with the van. Because to me, that was always going to be my worst case scenario is no matter what happens in my life, if everything gets taken away, I can always find a way to make enough money to buy a van and head south and live on a beach in a van. And that once I asked myself that question, I got that realization. It was so freeing for me. And then now I see people who are asking me questions about what I'm doing and they think I'm crazy for selling my house, moving into a van. And it's because like the mentality is different. I've already accepted the fact that I am okay with that. Not only okay with that, I'm kind of striving for that in a certain way. And so for me doing this, it's like a really good feeling. But other people that can't understand that and aren't at that place yet and haven't asked themselves these questions, they see it as something scary. And they're like, you're never going to get back to where you are, is what they think, but they don't realize that where I am isn't where I want to be, which is the kind of crux there. It's like, ask yourself if where you are is where you want to be. And then ask yourself if you're really worried if you don't get back there, if you take a risk, right?
So why do you want to go backwards? Like, Why do you want to go back?
Yeah.
Should be striving to go forward.
Mm-hmm.
Surely. And that's another mentality. That's another. I think that kind of highlights how people are thinking and people's mindsets, because it's always like, let's go back. Well, no, let's go forward. It might not work out, but I'm gonna navigate and do something else and find a way. And, there's no going back. Why would you want to go back?
And Jamie, that question you asked is really powerful, because I mean, I know we've all asked it of each other, we ask it of our clients, but that worst case scenario question, like where you say, what's the best case, what's probably going to happen, and what's worst case? And worst case scenario, most of us, if we start our own business, aren't going to end up on the street, because if it fails and something goes wrong, you would find a way, the way you're probably earning money in some shape or form. Like that worst case scenario isn't going to happen. The marriage of best case and worst case is going to end up with what's probably going to happen, and that is probably what's going to happen. And I mean, putting yourself in those zones and that mindset takes that fear factor away. So Dean, I'd be interested to know, because Jamie mentioned it with like his van. What would be your worst case scenario?
Probably something happens to my face and then my modelling career is over. So, worst case scenario, I probably lose all my money, my savings. No one hires me as a coach. I'll probably move in with friends for a while, and then they're sick and tired of me, and then I end up having to go back to the UK, living with my mum and dad.
But would you let that happen?
Not that bad. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. But I would say to people, and I think, here you go, the people who are watching, here's a little challenge, and maybe we can all do this, right? So the people watching and us, we should write down our worst case scenario as of today, and then write down everything that you're feeling. Like, it could be small, could be big, and write it down. And then in 3 months' time, I'll ask those people who are still watching, how many of those worst case scenarios or fears come to light? Because I can guarantee you 90% won't, if not more.
Because
if not more.
You do something along the way so it doesn't happen. Like, you were just talking about then. If you were in Mallorca still and you started to use your savings and coaching, the money wasn't coming through, you'd find work. You'd find another way to make money, like whether it was another online business or whatever, but you'd find a way to make money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You'd do something about it.
Yeah.
You're not just...
Yeah, and we're far more resourceful than we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say to people, so many things I mean, for us as well, like through coaching, our connections now and the way we've kind of positioned ourselves, that we're very well known, that I'm sure that, if I were to reach out to someone and say, like, I'm not doing well and I need a bit of help, someone would help me. Or someone would kind of see, and hopefully they would see, not hopefully, I think they would see that, I'm able-bodied, I'm able-minded, and I could help with someone or help with something, a project or with people. But we're so resourceful.
Well, and that's the thing too. I heard someone say that on that resourcefulness is that if someone comes up to you and be like, "Hey, man, do you have $10,000 to spend on this body lotion or something like that?" You're like, "No." And then all of a sudden someone comes up to you and it's like, "I need $10,000 or your kid gets it." That $10,000 is going to be there tomorrow. And it's going to be, that person is going to make that happen. And it's so crazy that it's like, imagine if you could just harness that negative one in like a real way, like instead of having to do it, you know what I mean? Where it's like, instead of having your child taken away from you, something like that, or kidnapped and then get the money, it's like, just get down and get that grit and been like, I want my life to be better, and I'm gonna find the resources to make this happen.
Yeah.
That's I think where you touched on, Kylie, is where do you get that grit and that determination? When does that come? When does that just come flying out? Maybe we should have that as another topic of discussion, because I feel like we could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because as I say, like, I mean, obviously, when we were on our coaching accreditation and we were all talking about launching our own businesses, one of the big conversations was around fear, that it goes belly up. We launch our own business and then all of a sudden you find yourself without an income. And that was obviously a lot of our worst case scenarios. And then the next question is, well, is that really going to happen? And you're like, well, no, actually, because by the time I realized I was having some money troubles, I'd be doing something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to allow myself to become homeless. I'm gonna do something. So actually, that worst case scenario, it's way out there, because there's so many steps that are going to take place before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such a hypothetical concept, and one that's ever interchanging. But every choice you make, every decision is altering that end result.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I think me personally, I haven't just accepted this as how it is. I always want to be striving and going for more, and that's just, I'm going to be like this until the day I die. I'm just going to be this, the other thing, doing something, finding this, finding that. And I've accepted that. That's me. That's what I do. I'm always going to be like that. And I am happy about it. I am not just going to sit still and like take it as it comes. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Well, you mean you're a man with a van?
No plan, but a van.
I mean, you're completely breaking the mold of this is what makes me happy, so I'm going to go out there and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, I should probably get out there and get that thing built so I have a home to live in. So awesome, guys. This is always my favorite part of the week. Mondays are my favorite time, getting to hang out with you guys. So if anyone's watching this has any ideas, wants to let us know how you think, hit us up, send us a message, connect with either one of us on social media, stuff like that. You can find us on YouTube at the Freedom Coaches. Our Facebook links are all here. Just reach out, say what's up. How do you feel about our conversations and stuff? So on that note, cool. Okay, guys. Well, until next week, we will see you all later. Have a good week. And talk to you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.